Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you will have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey Vet Rehabbers, I had a great conversation with Natasha Lotter about her unique journey in vet rehab. She's come full circle, moving from being employed to running her own business and then back to employment again. Natasha has traveled the world and is now working in Dubai. Natasha and I go way back. She's actually worked for me before and she's even bought one of my businesses. So it was really exciting for me to see how much she's grown and everything she's accomplished along the way. If you're looking for some free online learning, we've got you covered. Alongside our membership, which includes over 500 hours of vet rehab specific content for equine small animal hydrotherapy, we also offer free webinars through our limited access membership. The latest updates include core strengthening and lumbosacral stenosis, what we can learn from human back pain by Andrea Henderson, What's New in Hydrotherapy Research by Ariel Pichette-Markley, and Managing the Musculoskeletal Health of the Stabled Horse by Gillian Tabor. Now, Onlinepethealth members, you can access these webinars in your membership, and for non-members, they're available at onlinepethealth.com/free. Before we head over to that chat, a quick word from our sponsor. Nada first developed her courses at the Colorado State University, where she started the Medical Acupuncture for Veterinarian Certificate program in 1998. In so doing, Dr. Robinson developed a science-based platform for veterinary acupuncture, which was the first of its kind. Now today, Curacao Vet offers a whole curriculum in integrative medicine with a rational evidence-supported foundation, and the courses include medical acupuncture, photomedicine, botanical medicine, medical massage, and integrative rehabilitation. You can discover Curacao Vet at curacao.org. So over to my chat with Natasha. Hey Tash, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey there, Megs. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Tash, I'm so excited to chat to you because it's been a long journey, you and I. I mean, we've known each other for a long time. But for the listeners who don't know you, won't you share how you started your vet rehab journey?
So my veterinary rehabilitation journey started quite a number of years ago. And interestingly, it started in the very city and country that I am back in now, 17 years later. So it just goes to show you never know. I finished school. I knew I wanted to work with animals, and I went the zoology route because I wanted to have a credential behind my name. I then discovered I had a passion for animal behavior, and I spent quite a number of years working in 3 different facilities in the field of animal behavior. And the final facility that I was in, which was in Dubai, I realized I needed to do more. I needed to give back. I needed to make a difference. And I didn't feel I was making a difference. I toyed with the idea of going into veterinary, and a good vet and a great friend who is very well respected, Dr. Mark Penning, he was the first person I phoned. And I was like, Mark, I want to become a vet. He went, nah, think of other ideas. And I went, okay, paraveterinary. Because it wasn't so much a thing here in the UAE, but there was definitely options in the United Kingdom. So I started my studies in our transition back to South Africa, and that really is where it started. And I always had the idea I would pair veterinary rehabilitation with rehabilitation of wild animals and getting them back, release, and well, that hasn't happened. But the journey's taken me slightly differently. I don't regret it in one small way, not one tiny bit.
It often happens that way. I mean, I remember when I was younger, and even when the whole time I studied vet, I used to just be like, oh, I'll learn about these small animals, but I'm going to be an equine vet. So I don't really need to know all this stuff, but obviously I have to learn it so I can pass. And I ended up being a small animal vet. So yeah, our journeys and our paths, sometimes, yeah, doors open and we step through them and then things completely change. That's actually the exciting thing about our profession, is that we can go in so many different ways. So fast forward to when you moved back to South Africa, what did you do then? Did you start up a mobile clinic? Did you work for someone?
So I originally worked for Westport Vet, basically under Dr. Steve Wimberley, and that was an incredible opportunity. So I must say it was quite similar a setup to where I am now. So when I left there, I kind of had this idea I was going to work for myself, and that was going to be me until retirement. Well, my husband has itchy feet, so I'll blame it on him. But we're back, and I'm in a place of peace and complete contentment, being in a very similar setup in a different country, a large team, CT scanners, 24 hours, a physio and hydrotherapy center. It almost feels like history over again. But I was at Westport Vet for a number of years, and then I decided to go out mobile. And mobile gave me the opportunity to work from home, and it gave me the opportunity to do a lot of equine work as well.
So for those of you that don't know, in South Africa here, it's a place on the East Coast. In KwaZulu-Natal, there is quite a big practice called Westfield Veterinary Practice. How many vets are there?
I'm
7,
probably about 8 to 10.
Is it? Yeah. So it's a very big referral practice. There are lots. There's specialized vets there and everything. And Tash now is in Dubai, and she is in a very similar setup, a 10 vet practice. So you've actually done a full circle. So I'm excited to like chat about everything, how you actually got back to working for a practice, because when you work for somebody, it's very different for working for yourself. So let's chat about the mobile clinic. So you decided to go on your own. And you started mobile, you were doing a little bit of horsework, a little bit of small animal work. How did that look? What percentage were you doing with each species?
Probably say 40% horses, 40% canine, 20% feline.
Okay. And what are the biggest struggles that you had when you started that practice?
Working from home and then not saying no, because at 6 o'clock in the evening, I'll just do one more. I don't have to get in the car and go home. I could close my office and be in the kitchen 5 minutes later. There were very blurred boundaries, and work-life balance didn't always. There were perks to being able to, I'm actually going to go to Pilates class this morning, but there had to be that decision of, I'm going to go to Pilates class, as opposed to, I'll just fit that patient in. That patient really needs help. And that was a hard, sometimes, divide.
I think that's one thing actually as health professionals that we can very often do. And I also fell into that trap of just not wanting to say no to people and just thinking like, then what for the patients? So let me just see that patient, but often to the detriment of ourselves. And I think that sort of, looking after ourselves, we actually have to prioritize. We actually have to book that in, like say, and so when somebody says, I can come at this time, you just say like, oh no, I've got something on there. Or I used to just say, I'm booked then. I'm already booked then, even though it wasn't with the patient. But I think we have to block that in, right? And I hear you about the boundaries. I mean, I have the same thing now. I'm working from home, and I must say, in the very early days of working from home, even though it's a different type of business, but I also in the years also had a practice at home. So I used to consult at other practices and at home, and you tend to just tend to think, well, I'm there anyway, so I could be like chilling and watching TV, or I could just be earning some money and seeing this patient, so let me just do that. But then, like you say, you just have these lines that are blurred, and then you actually end up just being at work all the time. So I'm really good with it now. Like I have a time, that's it. And if I haven't finished the work tomorrow, it's going to have to be, I can't do it. So, but you have to be so clear with that. So that's something that's really, really good to share. Any other challenges? I mean, because, when you're doing mixed practice, so the small animal side and the equine side, there is that driving. And one of the things that I really struggled with is getting back to my small animal patients on time because of traffic, or you can't catch the horse. And then you're like, got to treat this horse, and now my other clients, and then you had like less time to treat the horse, and you're like, well, do I finish the treatment? Do I come back? Because now I feel like I'm doing a disservice to that client. Any of those kind of struggles that you had?
To be honest, no. I really had equine days and gaps, and they were set aside for maximum capacity. And then on confirming bookings, there was always that leeway. But I didn't. Maybe the one day we ran into floods. I think there were pretty bad floods in Durban, and I remember us being stuck at the Shortland stables close to the airport. That is, I think, the only one. The weather really got against us that day. But other than that, I tend to prepare for the worst sometimes, to be honest. So yeah, always just prepare for the worst. And if it gave me an hour, to be honest, I'd always fill that hour with reports or reminders or a message to the vet. So it was always work related. But yeah, I always gave myself sort of a stopgap.
Yeah, and I think your advice about keeping the day separate is good. So that was one of my things I didn't do. I'd be like half day equine, half day doing the small animal practice. And I think that makes it tricky, because that's when you can get stuck in traffic and that. So what was the next thing that happened? So you opened the mobile clinic. How did that go? And then what was your next step?
It was amazing. I was working from home, which I was very, very blessed to be able to do. And I'm sure most people remember the looting in Durban that happened. And we were stuck at home. No clients could get to us. We'd been through COVID already. We'd survived that. And my husband looked at me and he went, I got a job offer in Abu Dhabi. And we went, let's go. And in fact, I think it was 3 years ago yesterday that we made the decision and announced we were going. And when I phoned my mum to tell her, I thought she wasn't going to be happy. And she said to me, this time you're taking the container, the household goods, and the dog and the husband. And I went, great, full support. And yeah, we were here 2022 after a few COVID delays, but we got you.
Yeah, I can't believe you've been there for that long already. So you and I obviously go back, because I'm trying to remember what year it was. I think it was like 2011, 2012, maybe even earlier. I think 2010, when I started Holistic Pet. And for the listeners, I actually had my own products business. So I had a factory that used to manufacture like products for me, like harnesses. And I invented this type of brace, which I think is still out there here in South Africa. It's like and it was before its time. I've seen other people like all over the world create similar type of things, but it was basically neoprene with like thermoplastic in between that you literally put in hot water, and you could mold around the dog's leg. And I created these from my practice, really, because out of need. We were using orthopeds to make orthotics and prosthetics, but because of the exchange rates in South Africa, it was so expensive for our clients, and the client would just go like, I can't afford it. And then I'd be like, okay, what can I physically make with my hands? And I was sewing neoprene, and then I got a local company that was making braces and products for humans. And I said, can you help me? Because I'm a vet. I don't have time to be sewing these things. Can you make these things for me? And we did custom made ones. And Tash actually was helping me in that business. So she was one of my distributors in her area in South Africa. And at one stage, actually, even was really helping me with a lot of the processing of orders and things like that. And she's actually helped in my Onlinepethealth business too. I remember you used to make the multiple choice questions when we first started. Do you remember? So one of the things we had is we'd give like extra CPD points, and we used to have multiple choice questions. So Tash went from helping me with the products business. I was like, do you want to do this too? So probably one of the things that she probably should have said no to, and she said yes to. But it was good for you. You got to listen to all the content, and you probably learned from it. And then, I think when Onlinepethealth really took off, I was like, I need to decide what I'm going to do, because I'm like spreading myself between these two businesses. And I offered to Tash, I said, do you want to buy Holistic Pet? And she was like, yes. And so I actually sold one of my businesses to Tash, and she did amazing things with it. So let's chat about that, Tash, because that was obviously before you left for Dubai. And when you left, you had to sell it to another one of our colleagues. So it's gone through a number of people who've been using it as an additional income stream. Yep. But let's chat about that. So the decision to purchase Holistic Pet, how did you see that was going to work? Were you worried about like having another business and your practice? And how did you juggle the two of them?
I still can picture exactly where I was when you phoned me that day. And I remember putting the phone down going, yes, yes, and you're going to regret this if you don't do it. And it was one of the best things, because there's one thing working for yourself. There is another thing with the business skills that come from owning a business like that, dealing with a factory, dealing with orders, client orders, dealing with issues with client orders, because it's great when it all works well, but it doesn't always work well. There are client expectations, there are glitches that happen with runs of products. These things happen, but I am very glad during COVID that I had that additional income source, because we were able to continue right the way through COVID.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that a lot of the vet rehabbers didn't have, right? They couldn't consult. That was it. No income whatsoever. So, and you probably were kept busy because people were at
Yes.
home, and you probably were busier than you've ever been.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I look back, there wasn't a big dip during COVID. And when the time came to move, we'd left Durban in November 2021. We'd moved to Cape Town in the interim. And I was carrying on with the business, but we were staying with my mum at the time. And she had just retired. So I can't wait. I'm going to solve. She says, no, I can help you with this. And she very much has a business sense. So it was great to incorporate that. That taught me a lot. And the business definitely took a big rise in that time. We had her input. And mum carried on with it for a time that we were here. And then the time came. It had been on my mind. It wasn't something long term. I didn't want her to be doing it long term. Here I was worried about work-life balance, and my mum had just retired, and now she had a new baby to worry about. And the obvious choice for me was Amelia from Rehab a Pet. She was the Joburg distributor. She'd been with Holistic Pets longer than I had. Amelia's now the new mum of Holistic Pet.
Yeah. And it just keeps soaring. I must say, for me, it's quite strange when I see posts and things about it, thinking that, ages and ages ago, that was something that I created. So tell us about juggling those two businesses. What were the biggest challenges for having, products that you had to send out on courier or postage and orders and things while you were juggling your clients and your patients?
I think location-wise, we were pretty well situated. So the courier that I was using, it wasn't they collecting from us, because that was actually more impacting, like, negatively for me. If I had a patient, I didn't want the doorbell ringing because the courier was there. I was using a drop service, which was very close. So I really mastered the art of being able to pack orders in record time. But it was really important to have the products well prepared. So if I needed something very quickly, I could grab it and ready to go. I could be in the car 5 minutes later with the order packed.
Yeah. And the clients that were buying them, I mean, were a lot of them your clients? Did you get referrals from other vets? Were there people that just found your website? How did they find you?
Very few of my own clients, a lot of vets, and a lot of new clients that have come to us, and repeat orders. And that is always something really heartwarming when you see the same names coming up, ordering same products, ordering new products. And that was great. Over 2-3 years, that was really nice to see people who kept coming back.
Yeah. And was there ever a time where you thought, oh, maybe I should just focus on this and consider not treating the patients?
No, I think we were forced into that, one during COVID, and two in the transition before we left South Africa. Getting to Abu Dhabi, I was ready to go. I was like, right, I've had a break. I still was doing Holistic Pets. I need that physical fix. I need my kitty time. It's been interesting to see the cat side develop. I need my hands-on time. Yeah.
And selling it, any like feelings of, oh, should I sell this? Should I try and see if I can get someone to manage it and keep it? Because maybe I still want this business.
I think I got to the point I'd made that decision, like, before I even contacted Amelia. I knew it was the right decision for me.
Yeah. What advice could you give to somebody who wanted to start something similar, not necessarily manufacturing, but I think that there is a big opportunity for vet rehabbers just to create an online shop. They could source products from multiple different people that are manufacturing products and actually sell, you know, just vet rehab specific products. Because what I find is that when you go into a veterinary practice, you don't see these products. There might be one thing, like a harness or maybe some sticky paws or some toe grips in one thing, but there isn't this one place where pet owners can actually find all these products. So I think that there's definitely a market for this, and there's definitely a market for many people to be doing it. I mean, it's not just one person who can create this. And you know, having that stock, also you must remember you're purchasing the product at cost price from the distributor or from whoever you're purchasing it, and then you yourself can put the markup on that and then sell it on to your clients, which is very different. Like if you're getting it from source, you're getting a much cheaper price than if you're getting it from a distributor. So if you get from the source, whoever manufactures it, you're going to get a certain price. And then normally what would happen is the distributor would put a markup on and sell it to you. Then you'd put a markup on and sell it to your clients. So if you can get it directly from source and you be the distributor, you're actually able to put two markups on. And that makes that product and that time that you're spending with the clients and you're selling additional things to them, and not necessarily things that they don't need. Obviously, they're products that their dog or their cat or horse or whatever needs. But it's a really great way for you to add additional income and just to maximize that consultation. So I think it's a really, really great opportunity. So what advice would you give people who are wanting to do this? What are the things that they could do that would really make it easier for them to do it? I mean, one of the things I love about what you suggested, and it's not something that I used to do when I had it, that business, is I always used to have them collecting here. And that was very imposing. And it was like, you know, they say they're going to come in the morning and then they don't. And then you're busy on a call or whatever, or seeing a patient, and now suddenly they come, and then you've got to get disrupted and get up and quickly go. And then they say, oh no, that form is wrong. You got to fill this form in. And you're like, oh my gosh. So I love that idea of actually a drop place. Any other advice that you could give them?
You mentioned that like added income. I think it's also important to have that value added service for the clients, because when they feel like they're really getting that extra. So basically what I mean is choose your products carefully, because there's been a lot of products, not holistic vet, that I've chosen to, okay, I'm going to sell these, put a markup on, and they've fallen pretty flat. Good products, the idea didn't work. I wouldn't suggest consignment, to be honest. I think the admin that goes into it, there's a lot of chasing. Choose your distributors well. I had an incredible backup with the distributors I had. So I wouldn't do consignments. I'd choose distributors well. A value-added product and service for your clients. I think that's it.
Explain to the listeners quickly what consignment is. So for those of you that don't know what this is, consignment is when somebody has products that they're manufacturing or creating or whatever, and then basically they give them to you and you don't have to pay for them, and you only pay for them when you sell them. And it's a lovely idea and a great way to start sometimes, because you don't have to put the cash flow out to have those products in stock. But it is a logistical nightmare to try and work out what has been sold and what you still have. And like, I remember, I think with today's like accounting packages and things, it might be a little bit easier, but back in the day when we were doing it, like it really was tricky. And then what would happen is you would only have a record of 2 being sold. And then when they come and they count the things, like they're 4 missing. And then you're like, but I only sold 2. Like, how does that work? Are you sure you gave me all of those numbers that you said you gave me? And it's just like this complication. So, yeah, it's a lovely way to start. And I wouldn't rule it out in the beginning. If you're struggling with cash flow. So if cash flow is a problem, it is a good way to start. But you do have to have some really, really solid systems in place to make sure that, you know, and I think this probably comes in, you know, sometimes if somebody just pockets something, right? And I think these happen in veterinary practices where people put something in their pocket, they don't pay for it intentionally or unintentionally, who knows? But if that happens, you haven't got the money for it, and then you still have to pay for it. So yeah, those are the things that make it a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I must say, I don't regret not having backup to start. I think having it as an additional income did make it tricky. And I mean, mum was a great source, but I think I would have had a strong tug with having someone additional come on. One financially, to building that trust and that confidence, having someone thinking the same way you are. So if you are to do it, the two parallel, I would probably recommend finding someone that works for you as a backup, because as you say, you have to have strong, solid systems in place. And if you're trying to split between doing 10 dogs in a day and you're still not wanting to say no to the 11th cat, you really have to make sure your systems are okay, because that's when things slip through.
And it's always those days when you were super busy, right? I remember this, like so busy with the practice, and then they're like 12 orders that have come in today, like, and then the next day when you're quiet, there's like no orders, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have to prepare for that, you really do.
Yeah.
And I think also then, like, one of the other things I want to say is that, you know, having the stock, trying to work out, I think that is something that you eventually realize is like, how many do I need of? What are the most like common sizes that I need? But I think in today's day, with courier and all the different things that options that we have, everything is so much more streamlined. Everything is so much more quicker. You know, back in the day, and I say this, it sounds like it was so many years ago, but I do think things have advanced definitely here in South Africa, and I'm sure in other countries around the world, with regards to service levels. So if you couriered something, it was like 3 days. Like now you can do overnights very easy, like very quickly. We've got things here called Pudo, where you basically can do a drop off, and the very next day it's delivered to the person, or they can come collect it. So yeah, there's so many options now, and I think that helps us, because if we don't have stock of something, it's super easy actually to be able to get the stock. And it's so easy now for you actually to, even if you have a relationship with your distributor or whoever manufactures the product, to actually say to them, can you actually send this directly to my client? And they can actually just courier it straight to the client. So those options weren't available before. Like, I think it's just so much easier now to be able to do this. But yeah, it's a great way to add additional income. And so, I mean, I definitely recommend it. And I agree with you 100%. I think the skills that you learn in having a business like this, I think really complements a vet rehab practice. You really do get to deal with clients and the way they are and the complaints and things like that at another level. And so when you ever have that in your practice, which I think is uncommon, like we don't really have those kind of clients that complain. So when we do, we really struggle. And I think if you've experienced that with online, and I think even nowadays, I think online clients are probably trickier because they expect to get things straight away and everything must be perfect. So if you're able to deal with those, you can deal with any people at all. Like, you're going to learn some serious people skills.
Yes.
So what do you love about the practice that you're working at now? And just give us a quick idea of the sort of the physio and rehab setup that you've got.
Right, so our physiotherapy and rehabilitation centre is a completely separate building. It's a standalone. It's spacious. It has an underwater treadmill. We don't have a land treadmill. We have enough section for like a cat-friendly area. We are an ISFM Gold cats-friendly accredited clinic. We are, one of the vets and myself are fear-free. She's almost finishing her fear-free. It's interesting in this country, for the amount of clinics and veterinary staff, how many fear-free professionals there are. Just before we started, I was looking, I think there's 51 people who are fear-free certified in the United Arab Emirates. That's quite a lot for a country this small. So basically I'm there full day, Tuesday through to Saturday. Interesting trends, very much what we had back home when I had my own clinic. Tuesdays full, Saturdays very, very full. Thursdays are our quietest day. Very interestingly, cats are taking up about 50% of our treatments, which I never forecast. It's been a very pleasant surprise, but it is wonderful. We haven't quite got into a system of hospital patients versus outpatients. So like at Westville Vet, we used to do the inpatients in the morning. And then from like late morning, we would be doing outpatients. We haven't quite gotten to a system yet. So there definitely is some adjustment that's happening. At the moment, just trying to be as flexible from my side, from the team side, and yeah, just adapting. But so far, it's going very, very well.
So what advice could you give to somebody who was thinking about traveling like to another country and working and getting a job? Because obviously when hubby decided like, I've got this offer, I'm going to take it, you had to now like, oh, okay, like I need to find a job there. So, you know, and I think that this is something, you know, I think there are a lot of vet rehab therapists and vet physios and veterinary professionals actually who are looking to actually travel and work. So go and live in another country for a few years, just as an experience. So can you give them any advice on how they would navigate that?
It is an experience. It is a very worthwhile experience. Prepare for cultural differences, and that might not be within your team. It might just be a different culture to you. And there's huge value in adjusting to that. So probably the one thing I would say is be flexible. Keep an open mind.
How did you go about finding your job there?
I think it found me, to be honest. And again, I had a completely different idea in mind. And the clinic, they know this. I left my previous clinic, which was a startup. I'd done the startup. I'd done what I went there to do, and I moved on. And I was here without work, and it was a good break because I needed that time to regroup. I did a lot of training on burnout in that time. I used that time to catch up. And I was really convinced I needed a change and to not be with animals. And I wanted to go work with one of these food companies. And I really had my mind set on which one it was going to be. And I applied. And subsequently, there's been big changes on their side. I didn't get the job. I went for another interview at also like a Locato, like a wholesaler. And I remember the HR woman saying to me, "Why do you not want to work with animals?" And I said, "I want a new chapter. I need a new challenge." And that challenge and that chapter was obviously not for me because this job found me. One of the vets sent me a message, went, "Please apply for this." And I did. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and you look like you're happy. I think sometimes when we're in burnout or we're in close to burnout, then we think that it's the actual job that's the problem and we need to change. It's not the situation or the boundaries that we have around our job, you know what I mean? So we like the most logical thought process for us is just change the job, it'll be better, you know, if we just change. But often it isn't, you know. So because it's so funny you say that, because I actually recall having a very similar thought process once, and I remember also applying for like some like industry kind of job, and it was when I'd been a vet for about 4 or 5 years. It was before I went down my rehab route. And I was just like, I can't do this job for the rest of my life. Like, I'm just not feeling like fulfilled. And I'm just not feeling like, you know, I can keep doing the same thing over and over again. And there's something missing. And I remember just not in a good place. And I also didn't get the job. They said I was too inexperienced. And then I just moved on from it. I remember just thinking, okay, it's all good. And then I just literally went down the rehab route, and I was like, yes, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to have an impact. Like, this is the thing. So yeah, it's funny that you say that. So yeah, I think for the listeners, if you guys are feeling like you burn out and you feel like you want to make a change, it doesn't have to be anything drastic, guys. So yeah, just take a little deep breath and a step back, and see what you can change about your current situation. Because yeah, when you are a vet rehabber and the passion is your job, you know, and you just love what you do, sometimes that can be drained away by just being overwhelmed and overworked and just not enough time for yourself. So yeah, that's great advice. Tash, it's been so lovely chatting to you and so lovely catching up for you. Thank you for sharing your journey. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what your next steps are going to be, because I don't think this is the end of the Tash Lotter chapter. I don't think that this practice is where you're going to stay. I've got some feelings there's some big things on the horizon for you. There always is with you. So one thing about you is you're never static, you know, there's always something going to happen. And I'm never surprised when I see something on social media or like Tash is doing this, and I'll be like, yeah, sounds about right for you. So yeah, Good luck with everything. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, and keep well.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Curacao Vet. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free, so please go and check them out at curacao.org. Please also don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit. It's on Saturday the 8th of November in 2025. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members, you get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.